Good morning and welcome to the International Connection. We are in week number 40 of our radio series on mind control, and today we begin an interview with Cisco Wheeler, co-author of the Illuminati Formula Used to Create an Undetectable Total Mind Control Slave, and other books about trauma-based conditioning. Cisco is a mind control victim of one of the Illuminati families. She is a descendant of Ulysses S and has managed to gain a certain amount of freedom from her family's control. She is currently working with Fritz Springmeier to help other victims of mind control heal. Cisco rarely does interviews, so we are very fortunate to be able to bring you this interview with Cisco Wheeler. I'm speaking to Cisco Wheeler, co-author of the Illuminati Formula Used to Create a Total Undetectable Mind Control Slave and Deeper Insights. Welcome to the show, Cisco.
And thank you for asking. Thank you, Wayne.
Thanks for joining us.
Be with you.
And I'd like to start off with just asking you what your background is and how you first became involved in trauma-based conditioning mind control.
Okay. I was first involved in trauma conditioning through my planned birth as an infant, as my father came from a transgenerational satanic family. My life was planned according to a particular structure. My life was structured from the beginning, as my father was a programmer for the Illuminati and for our U.S. government.
So what political or military connections did your family have that you were aware of?
We had a very strong political background. My father had political connections. My great-uncle was General Earl Grant Wheeler. He was the direct descendant of Ulysses Grant. And General Earl Wheeler was the head over all the American military in the Vietnam War. He was the Joint Chief of Staff. So we had a very strong political background. My father was also a Grand Master within the Illuminati. He worked on the West Coast during the Vietnam War with his uncle, who headed the military to run drugs into this country to create a drug culture. And the purpose for that was to destroy the structure within the family unit. And that was the real purpose behind the Vietnam War, was the drug culture. My father was also with the USO shows in the military as he was a musician. He was also involved in the CIA, and he was also a 33rd degree Mason. And because of my father was a Grand Master within the satanic structure of the Illuminati, he was very strongly connected to America's political structure. And because of the generational ties within the Illuminati, from the time of my planned conceivement, I entered into a world that was structured and well-planned. And as a structured slave within the Illuminati, I too became connected to America's political structure. And as a small child, I was groomed to sexually service the so-called elite from within this political structure.
So this would be the elite of the American political system?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So were we talking people in the White House?
Yes. President Eisenhower is the first president that I remember. He befriended me as a small child as I would sit on his lap, and I sang to him, and there were sexual gestures back and forth as I was being trained. And I entertained governors and mayors, ministers. I was trained in sexual activity there, and I was part of the Illuminati function within the British royal family during the elite meetings.
So, how young do you remember when this when it started? You started being subjected to trauma conditioning. Was it from birth, or?
I was traumatized in the womb when my mother carried me. I was traumatized that early.
And how did you first realize that your family was connected with the Illuminati?
Well, I didn't know. Well, you have to understand that if you understand multiplicity, there's many layers within the system. And because there's many layers, there's parts of ourselves that knew and had very vivid memories of certain things happening within our life, but the front part of our system that faced the outside world, they had no recall or no memory at all that associated them to Illuminati programming or trauma-based mind control.
Mm-hmm.
So if I speak for the front part of our mind, they knew nothing was wrong outside of it, had a very abusive childhood. They didn't really know anything was wrong until my father died. And when my father died, that freed our minds to be able to retrieve memory. And at that point, they understood something was wrong. They started hearing voices and having flashbacks and having information that was retrieved that they knew they didn't have history of. And they couldn't figure out what happened. Where did this come from? This isn't the way I think. Why would I be thinking about sexual issues when I have no recall of ever being sexually abused? Or why do I remember that I was in a certain place, but yet I don't remember? You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's all secondhand. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until after my father died that they started breaking down the walls within the mind, the hypnotic walls that protect the mind from knowing what happened to them started breaking down. And over a period of time, because of memory retrieval and flashbacks and the trauma it was causing, they became extremely suicidal. So they didn't believe in suicide, so they sought help. So they went into a hospital, I think it was for 9 weeks, and started working with a therapist. And after a time period, they realized that it was not a normal, it wasn't normal to want to die when your father died. So during that time period, we found out there was a very deep root of, there's a rooted problem, is what I'm trying to say.
Now, did these initial therapists that you...
Pardon me?
Did these initial therapists that you worked with, did they have knowledge of mind control or trauma-based conditioning techniques at the time?
Very vaguely. Very vaguely. We were one of the first multiples diagnosed in this area. And we basically worked with our therapist, and she learned. She made a commitment to us, and what she didn't know, she found out.
And so your father was your main handler and programmer?
Yes, our father was our handler and our programmer, yes.
Yeah. And how old were you when he died?
I was 40.
Mm-hmm. And how did you manage to break free of your family's control of your life at that time? Did other people step in into your father's shoes? And
when the master dies, generally the slave also dies. But because of our determination to fight the programming and to get to the bottom of what was happening within our own mind, we were able to fight the suicide programming. And from there, we started a journey into understanding that we were a structured multiple, which we didn't even know what that was. And that we had a long road ahead of us, a hard road to travel. And
did you have to travel that alone, or did you have other people helping?
No, I had a very strong support team. Very strong support team.
And the other people in the support team, were they also victims of mind control? Or?
Yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
And several of them were, and several of them weren't.
But the people that weren't, they had an understanding of the mind control techniques and... No, we started this journey basically just understanding ourselves, mm-hmm. learning to understand ourselves, listening to ourselves, confronting each other within the system of this is what is happening, what's happening with you, putting our notes together, realizing, hey, we're getting our memories separately, we're feeling the same way, we're reacting the same way, and saying, taking one step at a time, because nobody really knew anything about, 13 years ago, nobody knew about MPD. Mm-hmm. Now, did your father also victimize other people with
most
techniques?
Definitely. Yes, he was a master programmer. Yes, he was.
Did you have brothers and sisters that were affected as well, or?
Not to the degree in which I was. I was the firstborn.
Mm-hmm. And was it because you were the firstborn that you were chosen for this kind of victimization, or were there other reasons?
In part. In the late 40s, the the Illuminati wanted to infiltrate the churches because they understood the power of God within the structure of the church. Mm-hmm. And they had to find a way to infiltrate the churches to break down the spiritual strength within the church, the power of the Holy Spirit that works within the church. And they had to find a way to infiltrate that. And they wanted to bring the world into the churches so that the churches wouldn't be so strong spiritually. And that was part of my father's job. So in order to do that, my father married my mother, which was not Illuminati, nor was she ritual, but she did have a very strong religious background. And she was that perfect example for the world and that perfect wife for the church, to set examples for other young women in the church. And so when my dad married her, that was his way to infiltrate the churches, was through my mother.
So throughout your father's life, how did he go about infiltrating various churches?
By becoming part of the church, by being a minister, by being ordained, by getting into the youth groups, becoming very friendly with the elders and the board of directors, and being a leader within the congregation itself.
Mm-hmm. And which church was your father affiliated with?
The Pentecostal churches.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your father's role in the drug trafficking within the Vietnam War. Could you expand on that? What was he involved with in the military operations in Vietnam?
Yes. When the drugs were brought in, when the Vietnam soldier was killed and they brought their bodies over, the drugs were hidden in the cavities of the soldier. And my father's responsibility was to get that from the mortician, and it would be a controlled substance at that point, and he was the handler of that controlled substance.
So this would be on the United States side?
Yes.
He was active in Vietnam as well, or?
No, he was just the extended hand that was used within our government to make sure the drugs were met their destination.
And once the drugs came over into North America, what were your father's connections in terms of the distribution at that point?
I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
I was not allowed to know that.
Right.
I didn't see it. I was too young at that time. I wasn't that young, but I was too young to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself completely free now of the influence from the Illuminati and your former perpetrators?
No, I do not consider myself completely free from the cult influence. We are continually harassed by external threats. And
what kind of harassment is taking place?
Well, we get a lot of phone calls. We get bullets in our windows. We get ran off the road. We get letters. We get people that walk up to us in the grocery store and they threaten us. They let us know in their little way that they know where I am, what I'm doing, and what I'm up to, and that it's not over until they say it's over. So they're calling the shots, in other words.
Mm-hmm. Have they been able to access parts of you that you have not dealt with in terms of healing?
In the past, they have. At this present time, no, because I am very careful on where I am and what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not careless with my time or my energy, and I don't set myself up so that they can't access me.
Mm-hmm.
I have other people answer my phone. I have other people that read my letters. I have other people that walk before me and make sure everything is okay before I walk into anything that I can't handle.
What effects of the trauma conditioning that you've undergone throughout your life that you continue to suffer and have to deal with currently?
Well, I continue to suffer with the trauma-based mind control in every aspect of my life. I have to deal with the facts that my father had a beautiful little girl and he didn't want her. That he didn't want her love as that beautiful little innocent girl that was born to him. But I have to deal with the fact that he wanted a little girl, but he wanted her to be shattered into a million pieces so that he could structure every aspect of my life. And then I have to ask myself, what did it take to splinter this 18-month-old child into a million pieces? When you deal with questions like that, it's hard for the mind to comprehend what has been done to you, to what extent. Because the mind always wants to protect itself to some degree, so you just take little bites of it. But the mind is always processing material. And then I have to deal with the fact that they planned this. And that's what structured is. Structured MPD or DID is that they planned this whole ordeal from the time of my conceivement. And I'm afraid that kind of hurts my feelings when I think about it.
So they had a definite structure in terms of they knew what they were doing when they were traumatizing you, and they knew what the effects that would bring about. Definitely.
They knew exactly from A to Z what they wanted to do with my life and how they wanted to structure it and what they wanted me to be and what they wanted me to become. And that is slavery. I have to deal with the body, soul, and spirit because all parts of myself feel like it's been raped, it's been traumatized. I continually have to deal with memories. I continually have to deal with spirit issues, which I mean in my programming, how they dehumanized me, how they shamed me, how they traumatized me to such a point that I didn't even know who I was, or what I was, where I was going. I didn't even know I was a little girl at some points in my traumatization. They made sure they dehumanized me to such a point that I became a kitten, a kitten within myself. To be a little girl was to be punished, to be tortured, unacceptable. I have to deal with the spiritual issues that I was told the lie that God didn't love me, that he raped me, that he didn't love me. I could no longer have my name in the Lamb's Book of Life, that my name was taken out of the Book of Life. And then they continued the programming with hypnotically taking my heart from my body, hypnotically, and through drugs, so that I didn't even know I had a heart, to dehumanize me to the point that there was no place to go except the family. There was no place to go.
Now, were there other perpetrators involved in your family other than your father?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm trying to think of where I want to start. My primary programmer was Dr. Green, who was Dr. Joseph Mengele. My other primary programmer was Dr. Black, which was my father.
And how did you know, or when did you realize that Dr. Green was in fact Joseph Mengele?
I always knew from my internal parts, because my deeper parts were programmers. And see, my father was trained by Mengele. So, because my father was his number 2 man, we followed in my father's footsteps. We were also trained and to be a programmer. That was our specialized field.
And were you able to identify, did he say that he used his own name at some point?
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. As well as he went by Dr. Fairchild, and went by Dr. Green.
And what's your understanding of Mengele's involvement in mind control across the continent?
I'm sure that he has infiltrated every state, and I know that he's worked within Canada.
And what state were you located when he was performing the mind control on you?
Okay, most of my programming occurred in California and Oregon. In California, I was programmed at Inyukern China Lake Naval Base in California, the Presidio near San Francisco, and the Letterman Hospital next to the Presidio.
This is the Presidio military base or the
military base, in Alcatraz Island. There was programming that went on in the prisons there, and in Scotty's Castle in Death Valley in California, also in Torrance, California, and also there was programming done at the State Mental Hospital in Salem, Oregon, and also in the big Masonic hospital called Dornbecker here in Portland.
And about what time frame would that have been around?
48, 49, clear up until the 60s, middle 60s.
Okay. And how did you begin the process of healing yourself and to, as much as possible, disabling the programming that was done to you?
By stabilizing myself, by making sure that I was in a safe place where I could do my work without being infiltrated, by sincerely making that effort to go towards health above all else, to work diligently on my memories and my programming, and to be a truth seeker, to find out no matter what had been done to me, I wanted to know what had been done to me, because if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And it was very important to me to go towards health, because once I realized what they had done to me and what the depths of the programming, and I wasn't going to stand by and not say anything. I was going to stand by and just let it not be spoken or be silenced. I was going to beat the programming where it says see no evil, hear no evil, and do no evil. I was going to beat that. And I was going to tell. And that was my determination that helped me fight the trauma of knowing what I had to learn about myself.
And the work that you had to go through to accomplish that level of healing, what did that involve in terms of dealing with your memories? And how did you go about that?
I had to face the pain. I had to face the torture. I had to face my own fears of the unknown. I had to face the fact that my father didn't love me. I had to face the fact that trauma bonding is not love. And no matter what they say, as far as it's in the name of love, there was no love involved in this. I had to look deep inside myself and find that spark of life that was left, because they so dehumanize you in the as they're programming you to be their slave, that for some the light goes out and there is no hope. But for myself, I was one of the fortunate. There was some hope, and there was a light, and that light enabled me to have the courage and the strength I needed to go towards health.
Now, how did the people around you that were helping you through this, how were they helping?
How were they helping me?
Mm-hmm.
My support team was very helpful to me, because my support team consisted of 3 women plus myself. That we were all programmed around the same time, programmed by the same programmers. And my father was a very strong influence in their life, as he was their programmer. So that tied us together emotionally. And all 4 of us had made the determination that we were going to walk out of this, and that we were going to go towards the health. And so we became very bonded, not only from what we knew ritually had happened to us, and through the trauma that had been done to us, the trauma base bonding. We stepped out of that and started building a new type of friendship of trust, of lifting each other up, building each other up, being there for each other, having a listening ear, learning how to document our memories, to be there no matter what time of the day it was. For the first 5 years, we all needed each other at any given point. And so I just wanted to say these other 3 ladies, 2 of them have medical degrees, the other is a teacher, and then there's myself. And I can say that all 4 of us are free today because we stood together. I think in our healing process, the first thing that we had to acknowledge within ourselves, and we each have to do this separately, is that we have to acknowledge that we are MPD, that we are DID, and that we were a generational family of Satanism, and that, yes, we did practice Satanism, and yes, we were of the Illuminati bloodlines, and yes, there's a lot of dirt in our life, and yes, we don't want to look at it, and it was too painful to look at, but there came a time when we wanted to step out of our denial, and I think that's the most important thing in our healing process when I look back, is that we had the courage to look at our life in the reality in which it stood. Because we were programmed to be a programmer, that gave us the ability to understand others as well as ourselves, and we could work together within a group, and we gained a lot of strength from one another. But we also had to we had to call a spade a spade. We couldn't run away from what had happened to us, and that was our strength, and it gave us the courage we needed to keep fighting. Once we realized that, yes, we were under mind control, and yes, we were a slave for the Illuminati, we didn't like the slavery in which we had been born into. We also didn't like the idea that we never were given a choice as to what happened to us. We wanted to be free agents. We just didn't know how to become a free agent. So we had to fight for it. It didn't come easy. The nights are filled with trauma. The days are filled with pain. The body, soul, and spirit is continually in a warfare as it goes towards health. It does not like to release the hidden knowledge or what was done to us, because everything was done to us in secret. And because of the programs, it didn't want to unravel itself, and to do so was very, very painful.
And was the ability for you and the other survivors being able to find a safe place to be able to undergo this work, was that a significant factor in being able to break that control?
Oh, definitely. Even to the point when we go see our therapist, our handlers would be on the stairs to the building in which we would enter to see our therapist, to let us know that if we said anything that would bring down the family or to expose the family, that we would pay for it later. They'd be waiting for us. In other words, have a good time, enjoy your therapist, but we'll be here when you get out. I mean, the torture that came with even... You had to face them every single time when you went to see a therapist. You had to face them knowing that they could be around the corner. They may run you off the road on the way to the therapist, too. They may burn your house down, and they may put a bullet through one of your children's heads or through your bedroom window, or they just, they're going to get to you one way or the other. You have to work with the threat, the lie. That was at the beginning of our therapy work. Just to get through the trauma of the threat, I would keep most people at home. But what it did for us and the other survivors is that we became so angry that we decided we're going to fight them even unto death, because it's not over till God says it's over. And when He says it's over, that's fine, we're ready to go home. But we're going to fight this. We are going to win. Because before, when we were under mind control and the memories were taken from us, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a say in what they did to us. But this time, it was different. We still had a say. We could walk into the therapist's office, or we could choose not to. But to have the ability to say, even unto death, I am going to go to therapy, I am going to continue this journey, there was a lot of strength that came with that, because every time we took a step in the right direction, it gave us the power that we needed.
So you found a lot of strength.
Lots of strength.
In the anger.
Even when they got a hold of us at the first 5 years of our therapy, and they did get a hold of us, and they did torture us, and they did apply electrical shock, and they did drug us, and they did rape us over and over and over. They continued these things the first 5 years. But even after the trauma, it was still worth it. Mm-hmm. Because it was the first time we could breathe on our own. It was the first time we knew we were human. We had been so dehumanized from the trauma of the mind control, that just to have a spark of humanism, to really have the reality, I am not a kitten, I am a child, I am a woman, I was once a little girl, it was all lies. You're willing to die for the truth.
Now, you mentioned about trauma bonding. Can you explain to our listeners what that is and what that meant for you in your case?
Yes. Okay, for instance, Dr. Green, at Inukurn. He used to put us in the hot cages in the desert there. There were sweat tanks, and he would come out there after we had no water, no food for a number of hours or days. Seems like days to us, but I'm sure it was just hours because a small child can't take days of that heat. But to us, we were told it was days, and we believed it was days. But common sense tells us that it was hours. Then they would put us in the cages, and these cages were set up so that we could see outside the cages. They were caged like an animal cage. And in my memory, off to the left of me were other cages. And these are small children. These are children 2, 3, 4 years old. And Green would come out there, and he would have a daisy in his hand, and he would walk through this area where we were being held in these tanks, these holding tanks. And he would walk up to me, and he would say, I love you not, I love you, I love you not, I love you not. If he said he loved me not, I knew I was in big trouble, because he had already set a prior example to me by walking in front of the cage to my left, where he told the little girl in the cage that he loved her not when he reached the last petal of his daisy. At that point, she was taken out, and she was eliminated in front of me. In other words, her life was taken from her at that point to show his power and his control and what would happen if Dr. Green ceased to love you. But what I failed to understand as a child with a child's mind is that it was set up. It doesn't mean that the murder didn't take place, because the murder did take place. But the thing is these were expendable, or what they called expendable children. As for me, I was Illuminati, so therefore they weren't going to eliminate me because they had a reason for me. They had my life planned for me. But yet part of the grooming is to set the stage. They set the stage. Green set the stage with his little daisy, I love you not. And the script was played out when he eliminated the child within the other cage. And I was to see all of this because it's a power play. If that's love, trauma bonding, I love you, Dr. Green. I love you very, very much because you did love me. You could have said you didn't love me and I would be dead. But no, he did love me, so he spared my life. But it also showed me the power that this man had. So try to translate that in the child's mind when they're only 4 or 5 years old.
Do you feel that the unpredictability of the trauma was a factor in the trauma bonding?
Oh, definitely. In that you never knew, spontaneous. You never knew when you were going to be loved and when you weren't going to be loved. At any point, there could be a change direction. When my father was very kind, as my programmer, he was extremely kind, but when he was ruthless, he was absolutely ruthless to the core. There was no humanism in him. He became less than a wild animal himself, and there was nothing that he would not do to get his point across, and so that was the same way with Dr. Green. We have parts of ourselves that love him dearly. To this day, they will always love him. They look up to him.
That's amazing. Now, how many other children were involved in this that you were aware of at the time?
Well, I knew in 1968 that there was over 2 million MK Ultras. In 1968, I knew that.
How did you know that?
But since then, of course, I have not. I do not have the awareness or the knowledge, because I'm not seeing the paperwork or the records to tell me how many. But if I was making a guess, I would say 10 million.
And how did you know that 2 million were involved back in 68?
I was a programmer, and I saw the documented records on it.
So they have been able to program victims to program other victims.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
How did they go about doing that?
They train you on the job. So you have to realize within an Illuminati structure there are many levels to a system. And my mothers were trained in programming. That's at the Illuminati level.
So they trained you in terms of the programming techniques?
Yes.
And what kind of other people did they make you perform this kind of programming on? Were they other Illuminati family members, or?
Yes, they were all Illuminati children, yes. We did not work outside of the Illuminati structure.
Now, as an Illuminati family member, what did they have planned for you in terms of why they wanted to program you?
The sole purpose at the depth of the, within the layering of a system, at the deepest depths of the system lays mothers, are the foundations there. You have three mothers that are on a pedestal, and their sole purpose is to rule and reign with the Antichrist as his queen. As God has a bride, so Lucifer has a bride, and that bride is the mothers of darkness. And so these mothers are to rule and reign with the Antichrist when he takes his throne. And that is the bottom line.
Who would be this Antichrist figure? I've heard of the name Lord Maitreya. Is this one candidate, or?
He is a forerunner, he is one of the disciples. You have to understand that the Luciferian belief system and the way that the structure within the Illuminati is laid out, it's laid out according to God's Word, and so that it can stand or be in blasphemous of who God is. But when God sent his Son upon the earth, Christ had 12 disciples that followed with him, and the Antichrist is going to be like 3 in 1, but he will also have 12 forerunners. And this is where Maitreya comes in. He is a forerunner. Like John the Baptist was a forerunner for Christ.
And how do you think, or if you have any information on how they're going to accomplish this?
They've already accomplished it.
In what sense?
By taking our constitutional rights away from us. By having a government within a government, like a box within a box. By creating famines. By having wars and rumors of wars. By the American people and the Canadian people no longer having the freedoms that once were freely theirs.
In a global sense, how is this related to what is known as the New World Order?
The New World Order is a body of people within the Illuminati. You have 13 major bloodlines that rule the world. And they set the stage. They play out the script. And there will be a complete fulfillment of what they have staged for the American people, the Canadians, and the world. There's no doubt about it.
So what kind of things do you expect that will occur in the future as relates to this?
I believe that the people of the world are going to wake up someday very soon and going to realize that the stock market has crashed. That financially, the world has been crushed financially. They're going to realize that their food and grain has been contaminated. They're going to realize that their medical field has been dominated by the medical force and by the Illuminati, because the Illuminati has infiltrated every aspect of our life. We're going to realize that we don't have the freedom to even speak for our children, that the government has more to say in regards to our children than we do, so they can take them and control them at any given point. We're going to realize that the churches are not what they seem to have been, that the churches have been infiltrated, that there's nothing left. There's nothing that has not been touched by the Illuminati and its family.
So do you feel that there's going to be a time where this is going to be implemented in terms of a one-world military government?
Definitely. I expect 1998 to be a year of turmoil as far as people coming to terms that their government is not what they thought it was, that the churches are not what they thought it was, the people that they have looked up to are not who they thought they were.
And what kind of things do you believe that these power groups that are belong to the Illuminati, that they will try to implement in terms of controlling people's anger and responses to what they've got planned? What's the retaliation?
To eliminate the people as a whole. Anyone that doesn't come under submission of the New World Order, they will be eliminated.
And do you think that they will use the mind control victims to implement that?
Most definitely.
And how do you think that is going to come about?
They can use any slave that has been under mind control to accomplish any goal in which they have set forth. With an access code, they can blow up a bridge. They can assassinate any leader, or that could be a governor, that could be a mayor, that could be a pastor, that could be anyone that gets in the Illuminati's path that will not bend or will not bow to the Illuminati structure. They have slaves in force that'll just go and eliminate them. Whatever is needed, it is there. I guarantee you, it is there.
So does this relate? There's been quite a number of survivors of mind control talking about end times programming, where they know they're going to be triggered to do something. Is this related to that?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It most definitely is. There is a certain time. There is a clock ticking, and it is going to strike midnight soon. And when it does, all hell is going to break loose within the world.
And do you have an idea of a date that has been?
I do not give dates.
Okay.
I'm not God, and things can always change. The timetables can change because of circumstances surrounding what they're trying to accomplish. It can either rapidly speed up, or it can be time can stand still, because everything has to work like a ticking clock. Everything has to be in its place in order for the New World Order to take its place, or to come about. Everything has to be in its place.
Now, what do you think that people can do out there to try to stop this, or to prepare themselves for this?
I believe that people need to understand that there's a time to weep, and there's a time for war. And I believe that every man and every woman should have the insight or the foreknowledge to know within themselves, to answer to themselves, that when they look around, if they're honest with themselves, that they can see that the world is falling apart at its seams, that something big is coming down. They need to look at themselves. They need to listen to themselves. They need to look and see and hear what is happening around them, and they need to start preparing themselves for the worst, because the worst is coming. And they need to be in a place and in a state of mind that when the military soldiers are knocking at their doors to come after their children, to take them down, that they say, not me, not me, not me in my house. We're going to fight. There is a time to fight.
Now, part of the, as you said, your strength has been from your anger, and in terms of trying to expose what they have been doing. What have you been doing since breaking free to a certain degree in terms of exposing what they've been doing? How have you been getting the word out to the public?
We have. I've co-authored 3 books with Fritz Springmeier. And in co-authoring these books, we have taken our internal information and our knowledge that we've had because of our own experience within the Illuminati, and we have put it to the page. In other words, we have written it. Because we are a programmer, we understand the inside and the heartbeat of Lucifer himself, because mind control and the Illuminati are nothing more than the heartbeat of Satan himself, to bring down God's people, the world as a whole.
Now, what do you think more needs to happen in terms of exposing this to the general public?
I believe that to understand what is going on within the heartbeat of the Illuminati, that you need to understand what the Illuminati are, who they are, what they are, and what they've done. You need to understand something. You have to have foresight, because without foresight, you're walking in the dark, and you're going to think you know, but you really do not know until you come in contact with it, even if it's through the pages of the written word, because it's out there, it's written. The material, whether it's me or Fritz or someone else, there is written material on mind control. And people need to know what's been done. Because if they don't know what's been done to them, they're never going to know what can be done again to their families and their children.
So what elements in terms of the Illuminati's belief systems and what they have been doing, what elements of that are essential for people to understand?
They need to understand that the Illuminati are Satanists and that there isn't anything they will not do. They are gods unto themselves. They think they are gods, and they are only serving Lucifer. They've taken oaths unto Lucifer to serve him as their prince, as the Father of Light. And they've taken blood oaths in order to see this, to see it done, to see the fulfillment of the end time, to see the Antichrist take his throne. They have done this for centuries.
Do you think it's important that the general public understand the mind control aspects of this and how they've accomplished mind control?
Most definitely. If they don't understand mind control, they're not going to understand what's happening in their backyard or in their schools or in their churches or in politics. They're not going to understand how they have been totally controlled from the cradle themselves, that most of everything they've ever been told is a lie.
And how important in terms of the Illuminati's bloodline is mind control on their own family members, and what part does that play in terms of promoting their goals?
The Illuminati are very loyal unto themselves. They are gods. They see themselves as God, and they stay within the Illuminati structure. They stay within the royal bloodlines, within the Illuminati, the 13 ruling families. If you're not born, if you're not generational, you're not going to get into the Illuminati, because this is passed from generation to generation, from son to daughter to son to father to. It touches everyone within the family for generations. This isn't something that just happened.
But it seems to be more than just normal family allegiances at work here, in that they have traumatized and mind controlled their own family members, and I sense that has been an important part of perpetuating their end goals.
That's true, because their allegiance is unto Lucifer, which I will now call him Satan. That's who he is, because they believe the doctrine of Satanism. They believe that if they rule as gods and they are obedient to the call, which is Lucifer's call upon their life, because they've made blood oaths with him, that they will rule and reign with him in hell. They don't fear hell. They have no fear of hell. They only believe that if they do what Satan has asked them to do, which he does tell them what to do, that they will stand as gods with him in hell, and they will rule the people within hell, that they will become gods with him. That is the big lie. So they believe this. I mean, what can I say? Mm-hmm. That is the bottom line of the doctrine, is that they believe there'll be gods in hell. Mm-hmm. And they all want to be gods, because they see themselves as gods. And as a god, they come under no authority except Lucifer's authority. And Lucifer does their bidding for them. He tells them exactly what to do and what he wants. And they will do it.
And do you think this is driven by just the drive for power and the seduction of power? Is this what's underlying their motivation? It has to do with
money, power, and glory and honor, and it has to do with demonic entities. It has to do with generational spirits.
That they are aligning themselves with? So they have aligned themselves with
with Lucifer and his demonic entities. Yes, they are very demon-possessed.
Now, both you and Fritz have been helping other victims of this trauma-based mind control. How has the understanding of the programming techniques helped you help others?
Okay. I've been able to help other victims of trauma-based mind control as I've made myself available to counsel without any charge. Also, I've had, because of the written material, because I've co-authored books with Fritz, I have the information out there, and they're wanting to talk to me about some of the material that has been written in the books, because many of them are facing the same issues and the same problems, and sometimes they just need a listening ear. And also in working with victims of mind control, I can say I can understand them in the complexity of who they are and for what has been done to them, and without being judgmental. I can, when they tell me that they're MK Ultra and Dr. Green or Dr. Black or Dr. Blue or Dr. Star has programmed them and they have memories of this, immediately my heart becomes one with them, because I've been there. I've walked in their shoes and I know what they're going through. And I want to hear what they have to say. And I care what is happened to them. I care. I see their journey. Not that I take on their journey, but I see their journey, and what I might say may give them the strength they need to continue to go towards health, and that's very important to me.
Yeah, I'm wondering, when you're working with other victims, has the act of remembering the trauma of their conditioning, does that help to disable the programming or conditioning?
When someone else can walk where you have walked, or you can say, yes, I do acknowledge that, confirmation. We need confirmation, because of the atrocities that have been done to us in order to enslave us to the degree in which we were enslaved under total mind control, that we didn't even know we were alive and well on planet Earth without permission. You know what I'm saying? When someone will call me and say, I remembered such and such and such and such, and I'll say, you're right on track. Your mind never lied to you. I can confirm what you're saying. These things did happen, and yes, I am very familiar with this program. I will not tell them about the program, because that's very dangerous to do so, but I will let them tell me what they know. And then I will give them the confirmation as to where they are.
And what other kinds of things can be done to help victims in terms of their own healing and their memory work? What else do you recommend for them?
I think one of the most important things to remember is that we were slaves, that we were ruled and controlled by the harshest hand of mastery. We were controlled by very sadistic individuals, and that we were terribly, terribly treated. You wouldn't treat an animal the way we were treated. You wouldn't. It's important to be sensitive to that, because it's very painful, because the body has felt raped, the mind has felt raped, the spirit has felt raped, and we need someone to say, this really hurts. And we need to have someone say, I didn't walk where you walked, and so I can't totally comprehend what you're saying to me, but I am listening. Mm-hmm. And I truly do believe what happened to you did happen to you. Mm-hmm. Because we've been so programmed to believe that if we tell the world, that the world will call us a liar and they'll stand us up. They'll either shoot us or put us in prison for the crimes that have been done, or that no one's going to believe the atrocities anyway. Did anyone believe about the Holocaust? The world didn't want to hear about the Holocaust. They didn't believe it. It's been how many years, and people still don't want to believe that the Holocaust really did happen. And what happened to us is no less than what happened within the concentration camps.
And do you feel that they had done particular types of trauma and conditioning that would set you up to be disbelieved by the public?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because the mind wants, when someone like myself or Mr. Springmeier, we start telling you things about ritual abuse or satanic holidays, and yes, they do this and they do A, B, C, and D, the mind goes, I'm going to shut down. You just hit a block here. I don't want to hear it. Because to hear it means that everything you've been told in your life all of a sudden is a lie. These things do happen. But we need we're programmed within the storylines of fairy tales and etc. And that helps us. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm not explaining it well. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. I talked about this with Fritz about how certain cultural like stories or
right.
Movies and books are used.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland,
right. Wizard
the
of
Book
Oz.
of Make-Believe.
So this is done, it seems...
All of these books were used in our programming.
It seems not... These kind of things are done for a couple of purposes, both because of the prevalence of this type of material out in our cultural world, that this reinforces the programming.
Exactly. And even if you haven't had the trauma-based mind control, you're still in a world of make-believe, because you're conditioned for a world of make-believe through the fairy tales. There isn't any reality here. But the mind always wants to go back where it's safe.
Mm-hmm. It seems like some of these programmers in some of the other interviews that I've done also have done things deliberately to discredit any accounts coming afterwards from the victims in terms of, like, you know, them dressing up as Santa Claus or just doing ridiculous...
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that so that they can... It invalidates you. I mean, after all, there are certain programs that if you remember this or that, and I don't want to say it over the phone because I certainly don't want to be responsible for triggering someone out there, but if you remember certain information, you immediately go into an insanity mode. Well, these insanity modes are put in at a very deep level with hypnosis and drugs, and when you hit one, if you don't have the support team that you need, you will go insane. And you end up in a mental institution. Who wants to believe someone that spent the last 6 months in a mental institution?
Now, just in a general sense, I wonder if you can give some information to our listeners to sensitize them in terms of what kinds of things were done, what kind of techniques were used for purposes of mind control. You mentioned hypnosis and drugs, trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and electrical shock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I only can speak for myself, and I go back to 18 months when they wanted to make sure that they splintered my mind. My father was my primary programmer, but he was also my father. And when I was born, I was isolated with my father in a small room within the environment of our own home, where my dad became my primary care provider. I looked up to my father. My father, by the time I was 18 months, because he was a programmer, could control my liver, my kidneys, my heartbeat, my pulse, my respiration.
And how did he accomplish that?
Through hypnosis, because I was so trauma bonded to him. My survival depended totally on him. I was not exposed to the outside world. He was my handler in every sense of the word. He fed me. He bathed me. And I also was a premature birth, which was very, very important because I was a very weak child. When I was born, I weighed 2 pounds and 1 ounce. And he conditioned me to his voice. And to his voice, to whatever I don't recall specifically because I don't have that recall as to my infancy, but I know from my own father's voice that he always told me he could control me. He controlled my heartbeat, my respiration. That's control.
Mm-hmm.
He loved me. I mean, he loved me to the point that even in my infancy, as a newborn child, I totally was dependent on him for my life. And then when I was 18 months old, I was taken from him, which was a shock for me because I had never been separated from my father. And my first trauma came when I was raped by him at 18 months. When they finished raping me, even though, I had to have reconstructed surgery because of the damage that was done, and I was just an infant, and I had to have reconstructed surgery done. But that the trauma that splintered my mind into a million pieces. And I shouldn't say million, it feels like a million to me. I should rephrase that and say into thousands of pieces.
Now, what kind of things were you conditioned to do? You had mentioned sexual slavery.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of other jobs or operations were you programmed to do?
Okay, I have beta and delta alters, which are espionage alters. Martial arts. They specialized in martial arts. They were alters that were used for blackmail for politicians and ministers and anyone that needed to be blackmailed in order that they may be brought into the submission of the Illuminati.
And how would this blackmail occur?
Through usually a sexual act. Usually there would be a stage that they would have sex with a certain person, and that person, through their during the sex act, that person was traumatized to such a point that that person died, and they would be blackmailed that they had committed murder, when in fact they didn't. I mean, there's many different ways to set up blackmail.
Right. So, but this would be recorded somehow?
Yes, it would be recorded, and that would be the sex slaves to be responsible for that.
They would be responsible for the videotaping?
Yes. And to set that individual up.
And who would be the people behind the blackmail?
The Illuminati, the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would want that person to come under the submission of the Illuminati, to be ruled and controlled by them from that day forth.
Now, when you mentioned delta alters, what specifically were those used for?
Your deltas are your assassination alters.
So you were programmed to assassinate certain political opponents, or?
Anyone that doesn't want to follow the orders of the Illuminati. Anyone that wants to feel like they are bigger or better or stronger or more powerful and can step outside of the authority of the Illuminati and live, they will be eliminated.
And were there other things that you were programmed for as well?
Yes, we laundered money.
Would this money be in relation to the drug trafficking?
Pardon me? Drug trafficking, drug money, But the thing you need to understand about these particular types of alters is that they don't live in the outside world. They live within the mind and within the construct of the mind. And when they are needed, they are accessed through a specific code. They are brought up to the awareness of the mind or to the front of the mind. They are then given the program as to where they're to be, what they're supposed to do, and then after they have done the job in which they are programmed to do, then they are immediately traumatized again through electrical shock. The memory is shattered again in the mind, and then they are put to sleep until the next time. They have no awareness of what's going on in the outside world, or that there is even another world except the world they were programmed to function in.
So the electroshock served to wipe out the memory of the operation?
As long as you do it within 48 hours.
Mm-hmm. Now, you and Fritz have been going public with this information. I understand you've been doing a number of radio shows, and you have written the books, and people have contacted you about that. Mm-hmm. What kind of response have you gotten from the public with the information you're presenting?
We've had very positive response. We have a lot of therapists, a lot of psychologists, we have a lot of psychiatrists, we have a lot of ministers, we have a lot of people even within our own government. And we were just told several weeks ago that we have 2 congressmen at this point that are reading our book, and they are very pleased with what has been written because they know what we have written is factual, and they're glad that it's getting out to the public. It's been very positive. We've had people say, next to God's Word, this book should be in every home and on every shelf and on every library. That we've been surprised at how positive people have been concerning our information. Of course, it has shattered a lot of their dreams, shattered a lot of the foundational structuring they have had within their own environment, whether that's home or school or church, because things are not as they seem. people that are truth seekers, they're willing to pay that price, because to pay that price may be the only way they can save themselves and their children.
So some of these professionals that have come across your information have dealt with or come across these issues in their own work?
Oh, most definitely. My work has been confirmed by a number of individuals, and they say it's right on. And these are professionals that have worked with multiples for 20, 25 years, and they have confirmed my work, yes.
And what generally is the response from people that have not been exposed to this, just in the general public, that you've come across?
It's like a culture shock. If you can imagine going into Japan and not being able to speak the language, you'd go into a culture shock because you would know how to even get a cup of coffee if you wanted, or a cup of tea. It is definitely a culture shock.
And it must be even more of a shock because it's their own culture that they're actually confronting.
Well, it severs. I would say that it severs the traditional lie, because we all have. If you're going to walk in truth and you're going to have integrity, then you have to see what is in front of you. And our books certainly put the light on the darkness, so that you can see what has happened to you your whole entire life. Because see, it's not only multiples that are programmed. The world is programmed. We're programmed to believe that our presidents are men of honor and men of great integrity. Our presidents are rotten dogs, excuse me. They're pedophiles. They're drug addicts. They practice high magic. They practice ritual. They think nothing of live sacrifice, small children. They think nothing of having their own slaves available to them. That's the way it is. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of the books you've written, how much have they gotten out into the public, and is it yourselves that are distributing them, or do you have distributors?
Yes, we are self-publishing, and the reason for that is because if we had a publishing company publish our book, the Illuminati would buy them all up and have the right to them, and we'd lose our books.
Right, they would just disappear.
They would just disappear. We can't risk that.
Great. I also wanted to ask you, are you aware of your father's connection to any of the people involved in the CIA's MK Ultra project?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. What was his involvement?
Ken. He was Dr. Green's left-hand man. Dr. Green trained him.
And did he have associations with some of the other doctors that have been documented as part of the MK Ultra?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Starr, Dr. Blue, Dr. White.
And so these are all the alibi names of these doctors. Are you aware of their actual names?
Yes, I am, but because of the sake of survivors that might be listening, I prefer not to trigger them.
Okay.
That would be a very dangerous thing for me to do.
What more do you feel that the public can do to help victims of mind control? What can the average person do to help the situation?
The average person can be a support person. They can contact ministers that are working with survivors that have been under MK Ultra or mind control. They can contact therapists, and they can say, I've learned about MK Ultra, about mind control. I've just begun to have a picture of what has happened to these individuals that have been traumatized from their birth. And I know these people are in therapy because they want help. They want to go towards health. And I would like to get to know you, whether it be a minister, whether it be a layman, whether it be a therapist, and say, how can I help you? Can I work with you as a therapist, as a minister, as a layman? Can I work with you to understand what mind control is? And as I grow and as I understand this subject at a deeper level, then can I reach out and be that hand extended to a survivor out there? Can I be there when they have ritual holidays that are approaching, when they have to, when their mind wants to have flashbacks as to what happened to them during those ritual holidays? Can I be there to help that individual that can't get out of their house because they're so trauma bound at this time because they're working on programs, or they're fearful for their life and they won't even go to the grocery store because they're terrified? Can I be there to wash that dish because that mother may not have the strength because she's working on her issues and she's too weak to even do dishes? Can I be there to sit in the middle of the night with you because you're in so much pain from what you remembered? Can I be there at night to hold your hand? Can I be there to support you? Those are the little things that make or gives us the ability to continue. Because you have to understand as a survivor that in order to go towards health, everything that was done to us, in order to come out of this healthy, we have to relive every trauma that was ever done to us. We have to know it with the full impact of our emotions, every sense of ourselves, with these 5 senses that God gave us. We have to see it, we have to smell it, we have to touch it, we have to understand it, we have to hear it, we have to feel it.
It's something that people, it's just so difficult to understand what you have to go through.
And, you know, I can speak for myself and only for myself because I've experienced it. Some of the memories that I've had to go through in order to go towards health. As I was going through the memory, I would lose control of the process in which I needed to work. There's a certain process in retrieving memories that you need to focus on that. How am I trying to say this? This is very difficult for me, and I wasn't expecting to be so open. But when you're doing retrieval of memories, there are certain things you should do in order to keep that memory intact, to keep it in place so that the mind doesn't splinter itself. If the memory of what was done to you is so powerful that it splintered your mind when you were traumatized, if you relive that experience again and you don't do it properly, you don't go through the process of the memory retrieval properly, you'll re-splinter again.
Right, it's a form of re-traumatization, I would imagine.
Right. So every memory we have, we're re-traumatized. And it's a process. It's something you have to learn over and over and over because every memory has a different feeling. It has a purpose behind it, maybe a different purpose, but it all is trauma. So those that want to be a hand that's extended towards survivors, they can be there if they want to learn about mind control. There are many people out there that are working with survivors. They need a break too. They need to have a few days off once in a while. And they need to be able to have a good night's sleep. And they need to know that if they want to go do something special for themselves, that the survivor they're leaving is not going to be harassed all night, or is not going to be contacted, or is not going to walk out of the house and walk into a trap where they will be reprogrammed or tortured. Because, see, the Illuminati is just waiting for a slave to make a mistake and walk out of her house and meet their handler. Because all program slaves have handlers, and they're just waiting for us. Their job is, they answer to the Illuminati, and their job is to make sure that they punish us for what we have done, and that is that we have spoke against the family, we have seen what has been done to us, and we have not held our tongue. We have told, we have talked. And there is a great punishment that comes with that.
For people listening that feel they may have been influenced in this kind of stuff or know of people, what is your advice for them? I advise them to seek out a therapist that has had training, at least 5 to 10 years of training working with MPD or DID victims that truly understand and believe that ritual abuse does exist on the planet Earth. Because if you're trying to work with someone that doesn't even believe that satanic ritual abuse exists, you're wasting your time. And if you're trying to work with someone that doesn't understand DID or MPD, you're also wasting your time because there is no time to play.
Our minds won't allow us to. There is no play field here. This is a life and death issue. And if you're not in the right setting and working with the right persons, it could cost you your life. There's a very high percentage of suicide in recovery for victims of ritual abuse.
Mm-hmm. In your experience, Cisco, how important was it having a strong support system to be able to heal?
To have a support system, it's very important. I would say on a 1 to 10, it's a top 10. Without a support team, you might as well forget it, in my opinion. I was one of the very fortunate ones in my healing process. I had Fritz Springmeier. He was my support team for many, many months, and even into the years he was there for me, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and he was there day in, day out, day in, day out. And the reason why it is so important is therapists have this idea that, and I've heard therapists say it, I've heard top therapists say that it's all right to work with a survivor. It's all right, or a victim. I really prefer the word victim because we're continually victimized, internally and externally. But they say, well, we can spend the 1 or 2 hours a week with them, and if they get picked up by their handler, that's okay, because we've still made progress. We've still made lots of progress. But I'm going, oh, no. I mean, I just about died when I heard it the first time, and I thought, ma'am, if you're the one that was picked up by one of your handlers, and you were raped, or you were gun raped, or you were bruised as bad as what I have been bruised, internally and externally, you wouldn't be saying this. Because when they victimize you, and they traumatize you, and they deprogram you, you're not, only the front part of the system they're told to tell their therapist they're doing very well. The programs are so intact and we're so fine-tuned that you can be dying, or parts of yourself can be dying internally, and your front part of the system will go to work every day never knowing anything ever happened to them. It's pathetic. What people do not understand, how severe the trauma is when your handlers get a hold of you, and what you can even do to yourself if you don't have someone there. When those programs go off, they're hot. When they go off, they're as hot as they are with the day they were put in. Whether it was 20 years or 30 years, it doesn't make any difference. Or if it was just yesterday, they are red hot. And when I wanted to cut, and I cut deep. When I wanted to burn myself, I would burn myself. There was times when I had to literally be held down because I couldn't help myself because the programs were so powerful. Therapists don't understand. Neither people understand the depths of the programming, to what extreme they went to make sure that everything they did to us would stay intact, that we'd be obedient to the laws that govern the Illuminati.
So as part of the role of your support team is in helping limit being reaccessed by your programmers?
Oh, yeah. And it takes such a special individual like Fritz himself. I can only speak for myself because I don't know anyone else that's been as fortunate as I was to have a support team or a support person like Fritz. He stayed with me during those hard times. He stayed with me when it wasn't so hard, because there are days that are good and there's days that are bad. Because, see, the front system, where we got into problem was, our front system was extremely powerful. They're a very, very strong system, and very high functional. And they swore up and down that they weren't being contacted, that they weren't being threatened, that no harm had come to them in 20 years as far as they knew. That was their information. Mm-hmm. They told their therapist, in 20 years no one's touched me. In 20 years I haven't done anything. 20 years I've been clean. Well, I'm sorry. It was just, it doesn't work that way. Because you have amnesia walls you're not supposed to know. They go deep, deep into the system. And I know the front part of myself, or the alters within the front part of my own mind, they made contracts. They made contracts with their therapist. They made contracts with Fritz. They made contracts between God and them. That there's just certain things they wouldn't do. There was boundaries they wouldn't cross. No, they wouldn't leave the house at 1 in the morning. Well, you have sleep triggers and so forth that during certain ritual holidays, the minute that front system lays down, there's deep parts that are ready and willing and ready to go because the alters in the front of the mind go to sleep. The other alters slip out. They come back, the front alters think they've slept all night. Well, we've been playing all night. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
it just must be devastating to realize that they have affected you at such a deep level.
Yeah, see, the front system cannot make contracts for the deeper parts of the mind because the mind doesn't even know what's going on within the front system, nor are they going to make a commitment because they're 100% programmed. They're going to do what they're told to do because they know nothing else. They only know the scripts in which are running within their own mind.
Well, I think it's a testament to your courage and strength to be able to have broken the control as much as you have, and to have gone through and dealt with what you've had to go through. And I think that sends out a hopeful message to other victims out there of mind control.
There is lots of hope out there for those that are under mind control if they have a very strong support system. Like for me with Fritz, I mean, he stayed with me during the 24 hours a day. And when it was bad, I mean, when I go into memory or I'd be triggered by, something and programs would kick in, he was there to support me, to help me talk it through. And he taught me how to run the 2 tracks. One track I acknowledge as the program track, and the other track is the new deprogrammed track, so that I could balance myself out and get back on my feet. Because you can stay within a program for days if you don't have someone to teach you how to free yourself of the old messages.
And can you explain how that worked, how you thought about the 2 tracks in terms of your breaking control?
Okay, the first track, I in my mind, I have it set up as the first track. I wanted my life to be new. I made the commitment that I wanted to have a new life. I wanted to change a direction. I didn't want, when I was free from my programming and I was given a chance to make a decision, I did not want to be what I was. And I did not want to function in the degree in which I functioned working within the Illuminati. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to wash my hands. I wanted to walk away. And I was very upset what had been done to me, that my choices as an individual had been taken away from me from my infancy, that I totally had to acknowledge I was under slavery, and I did not appreciate it. I didn't like it, and my choice was, I'm out of here. I'm going to find a way to get out of here if that's the last thing I do. I'd rather be dead than to serve them. And I still feel that way, and here it's been several years, and I still feel very strongly that I'd rather be dead than to serve them. That's how strong I feel about my commitment. So I had to come to terms with the fact that I had to find a new way to function, and so I had to acknowledge that, okay, I have a new track here, and on that track I'm going to write across it unprogrammed state, and how nice that feels to have my freedoms back. Because, see, you have to see the power, or realize in your mind how good it feels to be able to have a choice that you can make freely, because that's all been taken away from you. But you also have to, if you're a child and you have learned to walk, and you go outside and get hit by a car and your legs are crushed, and you have to be in a cast for months and months and months, and you have to re-walk when those casts are taken out. Well, as a survivor, I had to learn to walk. I had to learn to crawl. I had to learn to walk. Now I can run. But it's a process. So then I also know that I have a second track, and that second track, this track is the old messages put in by the programmers, which leave me in a state of total 100% under mind control, under the influence of the old script and the old programs. I know when I'm in that state, I'm in a dangerous state. That's when I would cut myself. That's when I would run away. That's when I didn't want to live. All of the, everything, all the negatives in life. So when the programs kick in, from the subconscious to the conscious awareness, the memories, the triggers, the programs, they reveal themselves with the full impact of the trauma as when they layered it into our mind so many years ago. Because it's in deprogramming, we have to unravel the programming script. We have to totally unravel it and find the lie. When you find the lie, then you can put the light on it, and the lie loses its power. And that's where the miracle is that your programs are lies. That's all they are. Was I an ugly little girl? No, I wasn't. Children aren't ugly. Children are beautiful. So I found the lie. They lied to me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Would anybody ever love me? As far as the cult was concerned, no one could ever love me except the family, because I was unlovable. Because of the crimes that were done to me, they put the guilt and the responsibility on me instead of taking the responsibility for their own act as adults. They gave me their responsibility, and I wore it. I wore the coat of many colors. And so I had to weave a new coat, and that's where the 2 tracks helped. Did you follow that?
Yeah, and it seems that they've been able to continue doing these horrific acts against other people by not taking responsibility or not taking the blame for their own actions and externalizing that.
And that's true. I believe for every survivor out there, when you are programmed from the womb and you're totally 100% under their control, when they tell you to cry, you cry. When they tell you to scream, you scream. When they tell you to eat, you eat. I mean, you're totally controlled by every move of every facet of your own life is controlled by them. I happen to be a part of myself that, and I'll be very honest with you, is that when Fritz found me in my system, and he told me that I was a little girl, I just looked at him, and I said, "You're crazy. I am not a little girl. I am a kitten." I looked in the mirror, and I had a porcelain face, and on that face is a kitten. And that's how they programmed me. They had so dehumanized me as a sex kitten that I didn't even know that I was a child. And when I went through the memories so that I could have an identity for myself, I realized that to be a little girl was the most painful thing in the whole world, because every time I was human in any sense of the word, or I thought I had any humanism, as far as being a little girl, I was so severely tortured that I reached a place in my own mind that I never wanted to be a little girl. It was too painful to be a little girl. They set up 2 cages for us. One cage was a cage full of nice little, beautiful little kittens. One was white, one was calico, and one was black, and there was a beautiful Persian gray kitten in this cage. And next to it is where I was, and I was 3 years old, and I was put in this cage with a pan that was hooked to electrical current. And every time I wanted water or to eat something and I touched that pan, I was shocked. That's just one little example. I was shamed. I was spit on. I was totally humiliated as a little girl in that cage for being a little girl. But the kittens next to me, they were the family, which was the Illuminati, including my father and including grain. They made sure that the kittens were fed whatever they wanted to eat as kittens. They were loved, they were petted, they were cooed, they were loved. This went on for a number of days within the trauma of this setting. And after all the trauma I had gone through, I guess my little mind decided, fine, I don't want to be a little girl, I'd rather be that little kitten, because that little kitten in that cage, it gets to eat, it has clothes on, and it's not laying in its feces. It's not being shamed, it's not being spit, it's not being kicked. When I went through the memories of this, my body was so bruised from the kicks that I had received from the Illuminati family and the programming that I had to wear the bruises on my body until I worked through the memory again. That just gives you just a little example of how far they go to make sure they get what they want.
Just extremely sadistic.
Very sadistic. I mean, even as I talk about it, and I haven't thought of it for about 3 years, I see
these little kittens are very powerful in my mind even today as I'm talking on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I see these little kittens and how well they were treated. But as a little girl, my father totally rejected me at that point. And I loved my father very, very much because I was conditioned to do so. I loved him in his gentleness, and I loved him in his weakness, and I loved him in his strength, and I loved him when he was bad. It didn't matter because the mind was set up to accept whatever he was.
Do you feel your father was also a victim of programming?
Oh, I have no doubt in my mind that my father was a multiple. My father was he was a genius at every level, but he had a gentle side. He was a musician as well as Satanist, and like I said, he worked for the CIA. He was a 33rd degree Mason plus. There's many levels beyond 33, by the way. He was a Grand Master. He sat on the Grand Druid Council. He was a very wise man, just not wise in the right things. It's too bad that his learning hadn't been applied in other directions. He had went far. I can't respect my father for who he is.
Do you think he had a choice in the matter?
No, I don't, because it was generational.
Mm-hmm.
We came from a generational family, and he was trapped as I was trapped. But the difference between me and my father is there was a part of my father that knew. Even when the good side of my father that loved his family, worked in the workplace, was in the military. I mean, there was a real positive part about my father. He was a people lover. He loved people, and people loved him. But I think that there was a time in my father's life when he realized what he was and what he was doing. I think that the barriers within his own mind, within his own multiplicity, had broken down to a point that he knew, that he also knew that he was in over his head. It would cost him his life to move away or to change directions because he was too far in.
And then obviously the difference being that you made the choice to break away and to fight that.
Right. And there's a willful act within the family, within the Illuminati family. There is a willful act there. And I can honestly say the things we did because we were groomed. We were programmed to do so. But when the light was put on and we went through the memory work and we had a choice, a free choice to say, do we or don't we, our system didn't want to. We wanted to do right. We wanted that hope, that chance to be what we really wanted to be that was born into us, and that was to be good. And that's the simplest way to say it, because I still feel very childish in this. I feel like a child that wants to be good. I don't want to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what was done to me, and I don't like what has been done to others. It's been totally unfair. It has destroyed many, many lives.
Well,
the one thing that I wanted to say when Fritz was working with me, when I had just come out of the system and he was working with me on a daily basis, I asked him, I says, well, these children in the world, do their fathers rape them? He said, no, good fathers do not rape their children. He said, it threw me for a loop. It absolutely threw me for a loop. And I stood there and I looked at him and I said, well, I really feel sorry then for these children in this world because they're not loved. They're not loved. He says, oh, but they are loved. I said, oh, no. If the fathers aren't raping their children, then they're not loved. Because, see, I thought rape was love. That's pretty sick.
They've just turned those ideas upside down.
Yeah. And I felt, in fact, the first time I'd ever had a tear in my eye was when he told me that children, little girls, and little boys aren't normally raped by their fathers. That is not a standard of living in which you live. And it upset me to such a point that was the first time I'd ever felt a tear on my face. Because I felt so bad that children were not being loved by their fathers. And it took me a long time to understand the difference. Because right is wrong and wrong is right. That's how you're programmed.
Incredible.
Isn't it something? I mean, when you really think about it. I look back on it now and I cannot believe what the ability they had to do what they did to my mind and so many other survivors out there. to what degree they would go.
And especially to children as well.
Yeah.
Just incredibly evil.
At any turn, they had cages on the walls. They put us in the cages, and the monkeys or apes got to take care of us. We had 3 of them. One fed us, one beat us, and one raped us to dehumanize us. So.
Oh, boy.
And I still wake up, and here I am in my 50s, and when I was working on the memories at Inyukern and the cages, well, see, whatever they want in the system, if they want a particular part in the mind to be a particular something, then they have to set the stage in order for that to come about.
So that they're manipulating a particular context to achieve a certain end?
Yes, yeah, a certain image within the mind. Yeah. Because a child has creativity, but they have to give us the creativity in which to work from, because you have to understand that the mind is protected by the family in that it's hidden within itself. It's like a box within itself. Boxes and boxes and many, many boxes, and each box has a family within the mind, or it's set up like a grid, a 13 by 13 grid and 13 deep. So your hidden parts there is no influence to the outside world. See, when I came out into the world and I met Fritz, I had never known what the world was. I'd never had the freedom of knowing how to go to the grocery store, or where was it, or what was it. I didn't know, because I was only programmed to do what they wanted me to do. They'd wake me up, give me my program, put me on the right track as to where they wanted me to be. I would go do what they wanted me to do. As soon as I did it, back to sleep I went. So I had no influence. When Fritz told me that I had a family and a mother that was still living, I thought the man was crazy. I really did. And here's something else that'll just throw you for a loop, is I have 7 grandchildren. And that means I have 3 children of my own that are grown. And when he introduced me to my son, which was 30, and he's a pilot, and when they introduced me to my son, out of courtesy, I just said, well, it's very nice to meet you, in my mind. But afterwards, I told Fritz, I said, you are absolutely crazy. You think I'm crazy. Boy, you guy, you've had it. You're telling me I'm programmed. You have to realize I'm programmed as a kitten, a sex kitten. When I look in the mirror, I have a porcelain face. I'm a kitten, and I'm 17 years old, and I'm not supposed to age. And when you look at me, and I'm 50 years old, you look at me and take a picture of me, I'm 17. I still look 17. But the point is that I was so totally 100% programmed that when Fritz wanted to give me the truth of what happened to my life, my mind couldn't even receive it because I had so much programming. It took 2 years for me to realize I wasn't a kitten before I ever believed him. 2 years of hard work every single day to break down the lies. That's how strong my defense was. And here I look at all these kids. I mean, here's what I said to Fritz. I said, Fritz, you are absolutely crazy. You expect me to believe that this is my son? You tell me my son is 30 years old. I have no recall. I didn't carry him. I didn't remember him when he played as a child. I had no identity with this child whatsoever. That's how dark it was inside my world. God. I said, he's 30 years old and I'm 17, and he's 30. Hey, wait a minute here, Fritz. Something doesn't add up. You're crazy because I'm only 17. How can I have a 30-year-old son? You expect me to bite that apple, and I'm going to bite it, and I'm going to believe this, right? I mean, that's the way the mind is. That's just one example. That he introduced me to my mother. He had introduced me to my sister. I had 2 sisters that I didn't know about.
So as you went through your memory work, did you regain those parts of your lives in terms of knowing who your sons were? And
I have had to build relationships, and of course, as I was able to get stronger and work on the memories and so forth, and first I had to acknowledge the lie, the big lie, and that is that my father lied to me. And that was a very harsh lie for me because I felt my father had left me. But remember, I thought right was wrong and wrong was right. So everything my father had done, they had always also given me the scripts to go with it. So I could not believe that my father could have ever lied to me. Not my father. So I had to first acknowledge that my father did lie to me. And that was I cannot express how hard that was for me. Because if I accepted the first lie, then I had to accept all the other lies. and I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want my father defaced. And then as time went on, months went on, and I had to face what he was. And I had to face what he had done to others. And if he did this to me and I was his child, oh my God, what has he done to so many other children as being a programmer?
Mm-hmm.
And that just about killed me.
Again, that must have been devastating to yourself in terms of what your view of the world was at that time.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Cisco, for joining us on this show. I know it's very difficult to talk about these issues, and I really admire your enormous courage in exposing this.
And thank you very much. Thank you for asking.
Earth sounds the movers.
We've been listening to an interview with Cisco Wheeler, a survivor of Illuminati family and U.S. government mind control. Tapes of this radio series are finally available of all the shows of this series at the office of CKLN, 380 Victoria, in Jorgensen Hall on Ryerson University campus. And tapes are $8 each, and transcripts are $3 each, and catalogs are available listing all the shows. And I'd like to spend this next few minutes just commenting on the last weekend's CBC docudrama, The Sleep Room. My opinion was a little too heavy on the drama and too little on the docu, based on what we've heard in this radio series about Ewan Cameron and his role in CIA mind control on children. It was a two-part series, and the first part was, I found particularly misleading in portraying Cameron as someone with good but misguided intentions, especially using the reason that he left the Allen Memorial was due to finding out his patients were not being cured. Also, for what it left out about Cameron's role in CIA mind control technology development, including his involvement with experiments on children. And other disinformation, they portrayed the CIA's motive was just to keep up to the communists with mind control technology, and the portrayal that the CIA just started experimenting with mind control, when it's a documented fact that the CIA had been producing mind control programmed agents 10 years previous to that. They also portrayed Cameron as not being concerned with military and intelligence applications for his work. I find that a little hard to swallow. And not being aware of the, seemingly not being aware of the electroshock's effects of wiping out memory, when he was an electroshock expert and trained many other psychiatrists how to use electroshock. And other disinformation was that the experiments didn't amount to anything and were ultimately useless to the CIA when they have taken mind control technology far beyond what it was portrayed. And that it was useless is a lie. And if the CBC had done its homework, maybe they wouldn't be perpetrating this lie. I don't know. Maybe they would. They made no attempt to link Cameron to the other well-documented doctors involved in MKUltra, or what they were trying to accomplish, what their end goal was in creating Manchurian Candidate-type mind control operatives. The second part of the movie dealt with the survivors' battle for legal justice. Some good things, I thought, were the portrayal of the Canadian government reps covering up for the CIA and the sheer sliminess of the CIA's scum lawyers. However, I think it may have had the effect for people watching it, especially people that aren't aware of what's going on in mind control, that justice was eventually served, even though the amount of money that the survivors eventually received was really a joke in light of what these people went through. And I felt that it had the feeling that the CBC considered this movie now closes the book on mind control atrocities, when that's far from the truth. These atrocities, as we've heard in this series, are continuing today. I thought it was unusual that David and Valerie Orlico were excluded from being characters in the film, when they were the driving force behind the lawsuit, and also particularly because David was a Canadian MP and the weight that would have carried to bring about the suit. I think it may have been satisfying for survivors of Cameron's atrocious experiments to have seen the movie and how the survivors were portrayed in their struggle for justice. But the reality is that these people were not the only victims of Cameron and all of the other mind control doctors across Canada and the U.S. I do hope that the movie is raising public awareness of mind control and what Cameron did, and hopefully will encourage public discussion about this. But I think many people might think that this happened a long time ago. It was settled. End of story. Well, the story does not end there, folks. It's continuing right here on CKLN. And we're continuing the series. Next week, stay tuned, we'll have an interview with Bryce Taylor, former mind control slave used by the White House as a presidential model sex slave and by the CIA and other intelligence groups. And she's also the author of the book Starshine, One Woman's Valiant Escape from Mind Control. You've been listening to CKLN 88.1. Coming up next is Aquí Nuestra America.